Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'd love to do today is to go through a book, and the book that I've selected for this specific episode is entitled The Second Home, a book that was published back during the COVID era on the 2nd of June 2020, during that time of our life where we just didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring, and many people were confined to their homes during lockdown for weeks and months on end, and it was a really difficult time of our lives for all of us. You know, we can look back now and be smart and be confident, but back then we really didn't know what was going on, and it was quite frightening to say the least, because the media, the global media, the governments had all basically united as one, and the message was quite disturbing, to say the least. So let's get back to this book now and see what we can learn, what we can glean, what we can take, and what we can incorporate into our own inventory of skills, knowledge, wisdom, and potential power. And this book weaves a touching story about family, about memory, and the places that shape who we become. Set on Cape Cod, the novel follows the Gordon siblings as they return to their beloved family beach house after their parents' passing. Long buried secrets, emotional wounds, and questions of belonging rise to the surface. Through love, loss, and reconciliation, Clancy explores how our past and present intertwine, and how home is not always a place, but a feeling that lives within us. The author of this book goes by the name of Christina Clancy. So the first key message that Christina shares with us is to talk about how home holds more than just memories. The Gordon family summer house symbolizes more than just a building. It holds the echoes of childhood, family rituals, and emotional history. Clancy shows how homes become the living archive of who we were and what we've loved. Yet revisiting them can reopen old wounds and old pain. It's interesting to note that home can heal or it can haunt, depending on what we bring to it. The walls may stand still, but the people within them keep changing from day to day, year to year, week to week, and decade to decade. Another message that comes from this author is that the past always finds a way back. No matter how far we run, the past calls us home to face what we've left unresolved. Clancy reveals that buried emotions and unspoken truths eventually surface. The siblings' return to Cape Cod forces them to confront their shared and their separate memories. An interesting concept indeed, and healing, according to this author, requires courage to look backwards without resentment, because the past is not meant to trap us, but to teach us and to transform us. Family bonds bend, but they don't break. Through conflict, distance, and misunderstanding, the Gordon siblings show that family connections endure, even when tested and heated. Love often hides beneath silence, pride, or pain. Clancy reminds us that forgiveness can rebuild bridges thought to be lost. And we must acknowledge and embrace the fact that families, all families, are imperfect, but their shared roots run deep. True connection outlives mistakes, growing stronger with honesty and with compassion. Grief reveals what truly matters at the end of the day. After their parents' deaths, each sibling grieves in a different way. Some through anger, others through withdrawal. And Clancy portrays grief not as something to overcome, but as something to try and understand and work through. At the end of the day, loss strips away pretense and reveals our deepest values. In mourning, the Gordons rediscover gratitude and clarity. Sometimes it takes losing everything to remember what is worth keeping. Another key message that comes from this book is that secrets can divide or heal. The novel shows how unspoken truths can fracture relationships, but when finally revealed, they also bring a sense of liberation. Clancy explores the dual power of secrets to protect or to destroy. Silence can breed misunderstanding, but honesty through painful restores authenticity. It's important to embrace honesty, because through honesty, even though it's painful, it can restore us to a sense of authenticity. Because when it's all said and done, healing begins when the truth is spoken and is spoken aloud, and every family carries secrets, and peace comes from bringing them into the light. You can't go home the same person. Returning to a childhood place reminds us how much we've changed. The Gordons discover that the beach house is both familiar and foreign, reflecting their personal growth. Clancy captures the bittersweet truth that whilst the past shaped us, it doesn't define us. Home becomes a mirror showing who we were and who we've become. Growth often means learning to love old places differently. And the last key point to come from this book is where we learn that forgiveness builds the future. The novel ends on a hopeful note, showing that reconciliation is possible even after deep hurt. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it releases its power over us. Clancy reminds us that love, when rekindled, can restore a sense of belonging, and that's what we all crave at the end of the day. The second home becomes a symbol of renewal, proof that broken things can be made whole again. In forgiving others, we find our own peace. This book, The Second Home, is a heartfelt meditation on love, loss, and the meaning of belonging. Christina Clancy beautifully reminds us that home is not defined by walls or possessions, but by the people and the memories we carry with us. In facing the past with compassion, we open the door to healing, connection, and new beginnings. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club on this spectacular Sydney spring day. Yassas, take care, and bye for now.